Hello, everybody. So it's a bit strange to do a talk with the headset. So usually when I do this is because I'm in Russia and there is someone that is translating my voice. So unluckily there is nobody translating me from Italian to English, so I will need to speak English. So in this talk, I want to talk about security in Android for the enterprise, with an enterprise perspective. So who am I? I'm Pietro Maggi. I like to go on mountains when I have some free time. I like to take things apart, understand how they work. I have 2 kids, wife, and when my kids start to take things apart to understand how they work, I cannot really blame them. But anyway, I'm here. I work for Zebra Technologies. That is a global company building Android devices nowadays. This kind of devices, rugged devices that you can throw against the wall. And we do barcode scanning with these devices. So not the usual barcode scanning you do on the camera, this kind of barcode scanning. So, and our market is the market of the enterprise. So we sell devices to enterprise. We sold in the past devices with Windows Mobile, Windows C, and for a lot of these companies moving to Android, the first question is about security. So it's very important to understand if Android is a secure operating system. Is Android secure? Because if we look at what is on the media in the past years, we have seen different vulnerabilities coming over year after year. This is 2013, 2014, 2015. So every year there is a new doom and gloom for Android. And I think these are the real data about these vulnerabilities. So it's nice to work with a company like Google because they like data. They like to collect a lot of data, but sometimes these data are very useful. Like in this case where we can see that even if the data, even if the media are telling us that Android is not a secure operating system, we can see that the ecosystem can work to make this secure. The reality of the threats that are discovered of this potential harmful application is that is not as bad as it looks from the media. There is a lot of clickbait going on in this case. This was 2016, and in reality there is no, was already patched before having this released in the market. So one thing that is important, there is really no secure system if we are not able or you are not keeping up to date the system. The operating system like Android, how much is secure Android? As much as you update the operating system, as much as you receive security updates. So this is very important when Google announced with Marshmallow and Android 6.0 that they were starting to push 30 days update for the operating system. And if you want to work in the enterprise, you need to be able to guarantee the same behavior of your devices and the application, even the libraries. So it's really about having something that is secure for the operating system, for the user, and in some cases, a lot of this potential harmful application needs to be installed on the device. So enterprise use case, usually we try to lock down the device. You think about a Marshmallow enterprise feature, we start to work with COSU devices, corporate-owned single-use device. You can have a device owner on the device, you can have a device policy controller, and install only a white list of applications. Doing this, take out more than 90% of the vulnerabilities on Android. So everything that needs to be installed on the device to exploit these vulnerabilities is already out. And what is the Google role in this Android ecosystem security? So they are playing 3 different roles for the application developers. They are helping the developers doing an inspection on the devices, on the application, so they can see which libraries are used inside the application. So if you are using an old library, they can send you an advice. They are looking into the building the best platform. So every new release of Android add new security features. They are now moving to newer Linux kernel. They are now moving to adding more lockdown to the operating system. That for the enterprise, it's helpful because it helps us to have a much better control of the operating system. So we are really talking about a robust platform. So, and this is not something that was since the beginning. Android has added over time additional features to and locked down some of the capabilities that there were at the beginning. So when we started to have a Jelly Bean version 4.2.2 with the whitelist for the USB for the developer mode that you need to tap 7 times, that was a security feature to not being able to have a developer access to the device always enabled. Even ADB, the whitelist of ADB, it's a security feature to avoid that if you have ADB enabled, someone else can attach another USB ADB device, PC, and get access to your device. And over time, we added encryption and secure boot to the device. So it's a set of lockdown to this to the operating system that are helping all the community to get a better messaging to the enterprise. Another thing that Google is doing is making a lot of money, betting a lot of money on security with the rewards. Security exploit have a value on the market, on the black market, and so on. So the best things in this case is to pay developers, to pay security experts, to find the exploit and communicate this exploit to Google. So Google paid over the last 12 months more than $1 million to this security expert for vulnerabilities that has been communicated to Google and solved before being disclosed to the larger market. And then they have a comprehensive set of services for the security. Verify app, they can verify all the applications that are submitted to the Google Play Store, but in some cases, when you talk about enterprises, these applications are not going through the App Store. These applications are private applications that are installed on the device through an MDM or even with other sources. Let's say that with Verify app, Google can even inspect application on the device, looking for a strange behavior. They have a program that is the unknown application. If they find an application on a device that is not known, if they find more than a given number of these applications on the device, number of times these applications on devices, they can upload the application to their servers to inspect the application. You have this sensor network that allow them to inspect the behavior of the application on the device. Android's device manager and APIs to control this additional security. So this is the full picture of for safety net. I was talking about the rare application that there is an additional term and condition by Google that when you accept this, Google can upload your application from your device to the server. So even if it's not going through the Google Play Store, they can inspect your application. They can inspect application for security purpose, and they even crawl all the web to find to look for APK and look if there is any vulnerabilities in this application. So what they are doing at this moment is that they are protecting more than 2 billion devices with more than 1 billion device scan per day and more than 50 billion application checked every day. So these are really number at Google scale. Only a company like Google can guarantee this kind of inspection and this kind of checking on the device. And what is the result of all this effort is that over time, they're being able to keep the potential harmful application included in the Play Store and on the platform. This is not only Play Store, but it's on all the different platforms overall. This is the percentage of potential harmful application discovered on the devices. And if we split the number of the application inside the Play Store and outside the Play Store, the number is much better for when you just work inside the Play Store. So if you are in a country where most of the market is driven by the Play Store, it's much more secure to work with just application over there. The third activity that they do is the ecosystem update. In this case, ecosystem is the application developers and the device maker, the OEM. For application developers, what they do is that they inspect the application and they communicate to the application developers if there are some vulnerability in the application or in the library that are used. So if you are using your application a version of OpenSSL that is has some known vulnerabilities, they can contact you and ask to include a newer version of the library. So depending on the different times, they discovered different vulnerabilities in libraries and started to communicate to the developers what they needed to change. The other topic, the other things that they do is they do a lot of community work with the OEM to push the OEM to release security update for the device. You know that one of the main problems on Android is that there is no single entity that controls from the operating system to the device. It's not like in Apple where they can release a new OS update and it's pushed to all the devices. On Android, you have the Google delivering the operating system and the security updates. Then you have the OEM like the Samsung, LG, or us in our small market. And then you have the carrier that can add additional complexity to the process. In the case of Zebra, because we are more agile, we are just targeting the enterprise market, we started to work with three paradigms. So we work with a very secure foundation on the enterprise Android. So over time in the past, we built additional functionality on the operating system to be able to lock down the application, to lock down the operating system. Nowadays, after Marshmallow, with the COSU market, with the enterprise feature that are added to Google, to Android, we are working with Google to try to bring our functionality on top of the standard enterprise Android. Android is not yet there with all the features we have on our devices, but we are working with Google to add features to control everything on the operating system. In fact, we have a strong focus on working with mobile managers, enterprise mobile manager, and with kiosk and having our device working in kiosk mode. So the normal user is usually not the one in charge deciding which application you can run and install on our devices. These devices are always used in kiosk mode with a closed set of applications available, and sometimes with no access to the settings or a limited access to the settings just to change the volume and the luminosity of the display, for example. And the last point is the life cycle management. Our devices are used by the enterprise, and the enterprise usually don't want to change the device every 2 years, every 1 year. So imagine that if you ever worked with an enterprise, you know that just deciding to do the project, it's a project. Then you have, after 6 months, you start to do a pilot. Then after 1 year, they decide, okay, yeah, maybe that we do this, we need to do the budgeting for this project. And after 18 months, they say, okay, I want to buy your device. And you say, sorry, but the device is no more available. You have the new one. So you start the process all over again. So our market are sold on the market for, our devices are sold on the market for 5 years. And then we support the hardware for 5 additional years. So you can have 10 years out of the same device. Then there is a problem. Okay, which version of Android? Because you are not going to update the operating system for 10 years on these devices. No, we are not. It's not possible. It's not depending on us. It's depending on the chipset vendor. We work mostly with Qualcomm. And if we are lucky, we are targeting to have the initial operating system plus 2 other versions of the Android operating system. We still need to understand how Project Treble will help us to have more versions of the operating system. But what we can do on our devices is to guarantee a secure life cycle of the device. So if we sell the device for 5 years, we have security update for 7 years. So 5 years of sales cycle plus 2 years after the end of sales. So this guaranteed to have, with this Lifeguard for Android, to be able to provide security updates on the device. And we have seen that security updates is what makes the operating system secure. Then it becomes another story, how you install every 30 days a security update on the device. And we are working to make this as simple as possible, because in our market, you don't push update to the devices. You make the update available, and then the IT organization start a 3-month project to understand if this can be installed or not on the device. And after this 3 months, they decide to install it on the device, and they need to start again for the new security updates. But that's another story. So it's really about this, how you secure the enterprise platform. We see nowadays that our customer want to have a new operating system, want to have a new experience of these mobile devices. So our company is on this market since more than 30 years. We started with DOS, then Palm OS, Pocket PC, Windows Mobile, Windows C devices, and finally Android. So they want to have this new experience, but the new experience, in some cases, a lot of our customers wanted to use a Windows operating system, even on devices. So we started to explain to our customer that Windows 10 Mobile is probably not the best choice, because nowadays they have 0.4% of the market share of the consumer market. And with no consumer market adoption, there is no justification to have an enterprise operating system. Just think that these kind of devices, the whole market, not just from Zebra, but from all the hardware producer of this kind of devices, is less than 5 million devices a year. Less than what Apple or Samsung sell on the first weekend when they start to sell a new flagship device. So we are not big enough to justify a different operating system. So we need to use what is on the consumer market. And a successful consumer operating system is going to be targeted by the malware. Because if I want to build a malware to gain some money or some having something like a ransomware, I'm not doing this on Windows 10 Mobile because there are no user. I'm probably doing this on iOS or Android. So having these 30 days patches is really important for the enterprise market. And this is what we are guaranteed at this moment. You see that 30 days or quarterly security patches. After the end of sales, we provide the security updates every quarter instead of every 30 days. And we do even another things, because sometimes we talk about the total cost of ownership. It's not just about how much you pay to have the device at the beginning, but you need to manage the device for all the life cycle. So the longer the life cycle, the less important is how much money you spent at the beginning. And we want to have these devices in the market. Our customer want to have these devices used in the market for more than 5 years usually. And this is why we have the security patches for 2 years after the end of sales. And last point is that usually you want to move to the latest operating system. So I have this device on Marshmallow. I'm going to release Nougat by the end of the year. And next year, we are going to provide Oreo on this device. But the enterprise company is not very happy if I tell them, OK, this was on Marshmallow, now is on Nougat. You need to move to Nougat to get the security updates. Because again, they start a project internally to validate all the new operating system and the application on the new operating system. It takes time. So we are providing for them the capability to have a 12 months of transition period where we provide the security updates on the older operating system and the new operating system. So they have 12 months to transition to the latest operating system. So, and at this moment, so because this life cycle is very important for us, for the hardware, we provide the best life cycle. We have more than 5 years of additional support after the end of life of the devices. For the security updates, we think to be best in class. We have the longest cycle for security updates release on every Android device. We have this transition period when we release a new version of the operating system for the same device that is unique in the market. So we think to be very well positioned in this, and this is very important for the enterprise customer that we are targeting. So, and one thing that was released last month was the USA Department of Homeland Security released a study on mobile security, where they stated that the most important things about mobile security is to have security updates, because it's the only way to be sure to have a secure ecosystem. You can have the best operating system in the world, you can have the best application, but if someone discovers a vulnerability, you want to be able to have a security fixes, a security updates. So these are some links that I added to the presentation. You know that Google is releasing monthly the security bulletin with all the vulnerabilities that are covered. They release yearly a year in review for security. A lot of the data that I presented here are coming from the 2016 year in review. If you want to know more about this Lifeguard program for our Android devices, you can take a look at this link, and there is the link for the US Department of Homeland Security. So this is the end of my presentation. I usually speak very quickly, but so if you have any question, I'm more than happy to try to reply to you. I'm usually very scared by questions, like they say that today the keynote, but I'm happy to try to answer any.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. So things are fairly easy when you're owner of the platform, so you can tweak it and stuff like that. But say I developed an app and I want to prevent other people from hacking it. Do you have any suggestions for such?
From hacking your own application?
Yes.
It's a complete different topic from what I cover.
Yeah,
It's Google released some best practices for security, and then I can only repeat what is in that best practices. So watch out what you are logging in the release build, or even leaving the code in the release build disabled.
So maybe you also do some software parts, just the software.
Yeah, usually what we do, we encrypt everything. We make the capability to encrypt everything on the device, not only at the volume level, but even on older version of Android, we have the capability to encrypt the partition on the device. But it's for a single application working on a device that is not controlled, is not locked down. Just start to follow in the best practices of Google. I've not put the link there, but I can add before posting the presentation the guidelines from Google. Okay. So thank you for the question. Anything else? Okay, thank you, and thank you again.